Okay, now quantity quantity theory of money is an equation that shows the relationship between money supply and inflation in an economy. Quantity theory of money. So what is the equation? Let's talk about that. Quantity theory of money. So we said that inflation can be caused by three reasons, right? So one cause of inflation is known as demand pull inflation. That happens due to increase in aggregate demand of an economy. We have talked about it again and again in different classes and all that, right? Then another cause of inflation is cost push inflation. What is cost push inflation? When the cost of production in an economy increases, and that results in higher prices for goods and services. And the third and the last cause of inflation that we discussed in our class, that was inflation as monetary phenomenon. So what is inflation as monetary phenomenon? That if countries start printing a lot of currency notes, inflation as monetary phenomenon. If countries start printing a lot of currency notes, then what will that do? That will increase the money supply. Now more money will be chasing fewer goods. Now this is a very important concept, students. Before we jump to the equation, you need to understand what inflation as monetary phenomenon means. Think about this. Why do we need money in an economy? Why do we need money in an economy? To buy goods and services, right? What's the fundamental, what's the most basic purpose of money in an economy, right? To buy goods and services, right? So you have money supply on one end, and that money supply is used to buy goods and services because money is the medium of exchange, right? So if the right box is relatively constant, right? So if the size of the right box, this is the right box, right? If this is relatively constant, but money supply is increasing, constantly increasing. If money supply in an economy is constantly increasing, so this box is becoming larger and larger, and goods and services are the same value or the same quantity, right? Then this means that more money will be chasing fewer goods. Students, are you following me? More money will be chasing fewer goods, right? So what will that do? That will make every item more expensive in the economy. More money will be chasing fewer goods. How many of you are getting this? Chasing fewer goods. So this is the concept that says that more money supply will result in higher inflation, fewer goods and services. So that's why excessive printing of money, or even it's not always about more printing of money. Sometimes money supply can be increased through other ways as well. Right now, let me give you a quick idea because we have discussed this in class as well. Do you guys remember that we talked about credit multiplier? And in that, I told you that commercial banks can also affect money supply by printing more, by issuing more loans, right? Money loses its value. Exactly. So when we say money is losing its value, we mean that each unit of currency is now buying fewer goods. Each unit of currency. So when we say due to inflation, what happens? Inflation causes loss of value of money because goods are becoming expensive, right? So 100 rupee note is the same as it used to be five months back or 6 months back, right? But that currency note, that 100 rupee red note in Pakistani currency, would now buy you less goods and services compared to what it used to buy you back in the day. Inflation, what inflation does to money? Money loses value because things become more expensive, right? So that's the concept. Because products become more expensive. It's as simple as that. Because products become more expensive. Any confusion around this? Okay, now students, let's move on. So far we've talked about that, inflation as monetary phenomenon is a concept that says that when money supply is increasing, that will result in more inflation. Why? Because more money will be chasing fewer goods. More money will be chasing fewer goods and services, right? Now that being said, right? So we say that when inflation happens, money loses value because products are becoming more expensive, right? We've also talked about this. Now coming to the official, coming to the formal definition of quantity theory of money, it is an equation. It is an equation that shows a relationship between money supply and inflation in economy, between relationship between money supply and inflation in an economy, as simple as that. Okay, so before this, I was telling you one thing, just give me a second, and inflation in an economy. So before this, I was giving you this, uh, telling you that money supply will not always increase due to more currency printing, right? So more currency printing is one way how money supply can increase, but there is also another way through which money supply can increase. So after studying the concept of credit multiplier in A2, you would know that what happens, right? Commercial banks can also increase money supply by issuing more loans. Commercial banks can also increase money supply, can also increase money supply. Do you remember that concept of credit multiplier, students? By issuing more loans. Any confusion around this, right? So that is also something that you need to remember, right? So one obvious way of, one obvious reason for increasing money supply is printing more currency notes. We get it, right? We know this, all of us know this, right? But apart from that, nowadays in the modern economy, money supply can also increase if commercial banks, which are private entities, they are issuing more loans. So if they're issuing more loans, more people are getting loans and they buy more goods and services with that, that can also result in higher money supply, which will obviously then cause inflation, right? Is everyone clear on this? If you just give me a second, I'm switching back to the main internet. My electricity is back. So it's already connected. Okay, very good. Perfect. Okay, students, can we move on? Okay, now this being said, now what's the equation of quantity theory of money? Now, look at this carefully because that is very important and they often ask you in the MCQs, right? Quantity theory of money, right? So the equation is MV is equals to PT. So this is the equation of quantity theory of money. MV is on the left hand side and that is equals to PT. Now, what is this showing us? Let me first tell you what each of these four variables are telling you, right? So M is money supply, students. M is money supply. They can increase money supply by buying government securities. When they buy government securities, right, they will be able to, yeah, that's correct. Because when they buy, they return back the money to the public and that provides more more deposits for the commercial banks, and then commercial banks will issue more loans. Yes, that's correct. That's correct, Isha. Absolutely right. So M is standing for money supply. M stands for money supply, right? V stands for velocity of circulation. V stands for velocity of circulation. I'll explain you all of this after I have written this down. Velocity of circulation, right? What is that? I'll tell you, right? Then P stands for the average price level. P stands for average price level, which we also can call journal price level, right? As we know, through which we measure inflation in an economy, average price level. And then the fourth and the last variable is T, which shows you the number of transactions that are taking place, right? Okay, now this is telling you for the entire economy, right? This is macroeconomic concept. This is not a microeconomic concept. We're talking about the entire economy, the entire country, right? Now, what is money supply? The M is money supply. No, today we will not have AS class. Tomorrow, inshallah, from tomorrow on, we'll start the MCQs practice, right, Arba? Okay. Now, students, think about this. What is money supply? Money supply is the quantity, if I can write it down over here. Money supply is the quantity is the value of currency in circulation. It is the value of currency in circulation. Now, let me tell you. So we have different denomination notes. We have 100 rupee note in Pakistan. We have 50 rupee note. We have 20 rupee note. We have 10 rupee note. We have 500, 1000, 5000, and so on, right? But what is the total value of currency that is in circulation in Pakistan? That is our money supply. Students, are you getting me? So I'm explaining you what each of these four variables show you. So M stands for money supply. money supply is the total value of currency in circulation. So if at the moment we have rupees 50 billion currency in circulation, like the total value of notes and coins that are in circulation in Pakistan amounts to 50 billion rupees. So that is Pakistan's money supply at the moment. Any confusion about this? Students, any confusion about this? Right? If there's any confusion, please ask me. Velocity of circulation will tell you how many times a typical note changes hand. Velocity of circulation shows or calculates the number of times a typical note exchanges hands during certain time period. The number of times, right? And I'll give you an example. The number of times a typical currency note exchanges hand. Okay, now think about this. So when you go to shop, right, which you do almost every day, right, then what do? You take out some currency notes from your wallet and pay to the shopkeeper and buy whatever you have to buy. Then the same currency note will be given by the shopkeeper to someone else, because the shopkeeper wants to buy stock for the shop or make some payments for electricity, for bills, blah blah blah, whatever, right? Now this is how money gets in circulation, right? This is how the money is always constantly circulating. So if a typical note of 100 rupees in Pakistan exchanges hands 5 times in a month, so there would be 5 different people to whom that 100 rupee note would be paid. So today I paid for my coffee at the restaurant, right? So I gave whatever amount, 100 rupee, right? And then that person might use that 100 rupee to pay off his bills, and that person then would pay 100 rupee to someone else for some other thing, blah blah blah. So how many times? So velocity of circulation is showing you, calculates the number of times a typical currency note exchanges hand, right? So if in 1 month, as I said, that 100 rupee note or 500 rupee note is being exchanged 5 times or 6 times, that will be its velocity of circulation, right? So that is your velocity of circulation. Money supply is the value of currency in circulation. Then you have, uh, price level. So price level is the average price level that shows how much is the average price of goods and services in an economy. Price level shows an economy's average price level, average price level, right? So think about this. If you remember, we talked about journal price level, right? So you can think of it as journal price level, that how much is the average price of a typical good in an economy, right? Average price level, right? So it shows the worth of goods, right? A typical good, an average good, what's its price in our country? That is its price level. And the last of all is T, which is the number of transactions. Number of transactions will tell you that how many transactions take place in an economy during certain time period, right? The number of times take place in an economy. Okay, now think about this. So students, let me show you, after we know the definitions of all the 4 variables used in quantity theory of money, let's proceed and let's take an example to see how this works. Worth of all goods and services produced. Okay, no, not worth of all the goods and services produced. Price level will just show you the prices, that how much is the price of a typical good, right? So think about it. It will be an index number. Isha, it will be an index number. Do you guys know what index number is? Index number is not in terms of, what is that called, right? It's not in terms of any currency units, right? It shows you that if previously the price level was 100 and now the price level has risen to, let's say, 20% higher. So then the new index value would be 120 and so on, right? And the number of transactions is telling you how many transactions takes place in an economy during that time period, right? So students, have a look at this. Let me give you an example that will make things a little more clear, right? Price level is it accounts for inflation. So price level is not directly calculating inflation, it accounts for inflation. Think about this. So on the left hand side, students, have a look at this. So if for M value in Pakistan, as I was telling you, let's assume is rupees 50 billion, right? So 50 billion worth of coins and notes are in circulation in Pakistan. Let's assume 50 billion worth of coins and notes are in circulation in Pakistan. That is Pakistan's M. Now, velocity of circulation, let's assume, is 5. So a typical note in Pakistan exchanges hand 5 times in a year. How many times in a year? 5 times in a year, right? Now, similarly, the price, let's say, right, let's write it down like this, right? So the total value of currency in circulation in Pakistan is 50 billion, right, students? The velocity of circulation, which is the number of times, number of times a currency note exchanges hand, that is, let's say, 5, right? So 5 times a typical currency note exchanges hands in Pakistan in 1 year, right? Then you have P. So P is the price level. So let's say a typical good in Pakistan is, let's say, 500 rupees, right? A typical good in Pakistan, like averaging prices of all the goods. So it is not showing you the price of one particular product, it's showing you the average price for all goods and services that are produced in Pakistan, rupees 500. And how many transactions take place in Pakistan during 1 year? Let's say 100 billion, right? Or let's say, just give me a second. It would be number of transactions that takes place is 0. No. Rupees 500, or let's change it like this. Just give me a second. I'm assuming the values that give us the right answer, right? So let's assume it's 250. Let's say it is 100. But that would be too less. Just a second. No, we have to make it billion. Right. Sorry, my bad. So let's say this was, let's say 500. Sorry about this. I'm just making up my head. And the number of transactions. Okay, this is something that we need to calculate. In fact, this would be a better example because then you'll also understand what's happening over here, right? So students, look at this one more time. Have a look at this. So we are about to solve the equation for quantity theory of money, right? In this, we are assuming that the money supply in Pakistan right now, let's say, is 50 billion rupees. So 50 billion worth of currency notes are in circulation, which includes 5,000 rupee notes, which includes 1,000 rupee notes, which include 50 rupee note, 100 rupee note, 20 rupee note, 10 rupee note. Yes or no? Am I right? Right. So the total value of currency in circulation in Pakistan at the moment is, let's say, 50 billion. Any confusion? Does anyone of you has any confusion? Right? Velocity of circulation is 5 times. This means an average, a typical note in Pakistan exchanges hands 5 times in a year. So 5 times these notes get exchanged, right? P is the price level, which shows that what is the average price of a good or service in Pakistan. So a typical good in Pakistan costs you, let's say, 500 rupees, right? Which includes, it is aggregate price of all goods and services that are produced in Pakistan, right? All goods means like the price of wheat, the price of cell phone, the price of, electricity unit, the price of, 1 unit of fuel, and so on, right? So this is aggregate price for all goods and services produced in Pakistan. And how many transactions take place in Pakistan? That is something that we don't know, and we will use this equation to calculate it. Now, one thing that you need to know, that the right hand side of the equation will always equal, like the way it normally works, right? You will know, right? How we solve equations, right? So the left hand side of the equation has to be equal to the right hand side. So what you have to do is you have to multiply the variables on the left hand side first. Students, are you following me or not? Right? On the right hand side. So when you multiply this, 50 into 5 will give you how much? 250 billion. What will that give you? 250 billion. Students, are you following me or not? So this is what is giving you on the left hand side of the equation. On the right hand side, you only have 500 times x, because we don't know how many, or let's write a t, right? The number of transactions that take place in the economy, right? Now, how do we solve for t? So t is multiplying with 500 over here. T stays on the left hand side of the equation. 500 goes on the right hand side of the equation and will be divided over 250 billion. So 250 billion, right? Which has how many zeros? 9 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Divided by 500. Students, are you following me or not, right? Then when you solve this equation, right? So that would give you, t would give you a final value of 5, 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So it will give you this much. This is your final answer. You can use your calculator to calculate this, right? So this means 500 million, because million has 6 zeros. So t turns out to be 500 million. So in a year in Pakistan, 500 million transactions takes place in Pakistan according to this data, right? Arbab, did you get this? Isha, did you get this? Right? So this is what you need to remember. Any confusion so far, students? Right? So this is what quantitative theory of money is telling you, right? Up till now. But there's one important thing that we're left with, right? So what we did, we multiplied the variables on the left-hand side, and then we knew the value of only P. On the right-hand side, we did not knew the value of T. So we calculated for T. So 500 million transactions, because when you multiply 500, have a look at this. So if you multiply 500 with 500 million transactions with 500, right? Right. So this is 500 million is the average, is the number of transactions. 500 is the average price, and then 500 million is the, right, is the number of transactions. And on the left hand side, you had 50 billion times 5. So 50 times 5 is 250 billion. So it gave you 250 billion, right? And on the left hand side, sorry, on the right hand side, when you multiply, so that will give you 25 and then 4 zeros, right? Right? And million, there will be 6 other zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And with billion, you have to add 9 zeros. You have to add 9 zeros. So 250 and 9 zeros. So it is giving you the same value, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So the two sides of the equation are the same. The money left is saved. Which money is left? Which money is left? Arbab, sorry, I did not get your question. Which money you are saying is saved? Right? So no, think about this. So the idea is, no, transactions, but think about this. Don't think about this. No. The idea was that the left-hand side of the equation is showing you the total money that is available to make the transactions. The left-hand side of the equation is showing you the total amount of money that is available to make the transactions, right? Because it is money in circulation times velocity of circulation, right? The right-hand side of the equation is showing you the worth of transactions. The left-hand side is showing you, left-hand side shows, right, money available for transactions. Yes or no? Money available for transactions. And the right-hand side is simply showing you the worth of transactions that are made, right? So it totally makes sense that the amount that should be available to make transactions should be equal to the value or the worth of transactions that are taking place in that country. Right? Does it make sense? So this is how the two sides of the equation will always be the same. This is how two sides of the equation will always be the same. Are you getting me, Arba? Now, the left-hand side of the equation shows how much money is available in the economy to make the transactions, money available for transactions. right? How much currency is being printed and how many times that currency note exchanges hand, right? So that gives you the total money available that is used to buy goods and services. So this is exactly the same concept that I was telling you over here, that is needed money supply is needed to buy goods and services. So this is what the quantity theory of money is showing you, that on the left hand side it is showing you how much money is available for making transaction, and on the right hand side it's showing you the value of it is showing you the value of goods and services that are to be bought, right? So the two sides of the equation have to be equal, right? So money available for transactions on the left hand side, value of worth of transactions, right? So the two sides will always be equal. Now we are coming to the main part, right? If money supply is more than transactions taking place, money loses value. We are coming to it. We're just coming to it. Just give me a second, right? Arbab, no, it's not just only the money supply that you have to, basically what you're doing, you're just comparing this with this. Now we will compare, right? Have a look at this. Now, what the founder of this theory said. Now, we are about to understand that how money supply will result in higher prices, because that was the fundamental question that we were looking at. Yes or no? What was the fundamental question we were looking at? We were looking at, it's an equation that shows the relationship between money supply and inflation. So we haven't explicitly talked about money supply inflation yet, right? And that is what we're about to look at. Now, the person who developed quantity theory of money, he said, now listen to this carefully, that in short run, V and T are relatively stable. V, which is velocity of circulation, and T, which is the number of transactions, are relatively stable, which means that they don't change their value frequently, are relatively stable in the long run, in the short run. So in short run, the value of V, which is velocity of circulation, and the value of T, which is the number of transactions, in short run. Therefore, any increase in money supply has to be met. So if V and T are constant, so this sign shows that these are relatively constant, right? Constant values, they don't change. So then this means that any increase in money supply have to be balanced on the right-hand side of the equation through increase in price level. Therefore, any increase in money supply on the left-hand side of the equation has to be balanced, because as we know, equation always needs to be balanced. Any increase in money supply on the left-hand side of equation need to be balanced by increase in price level on the right hand side. How many of you got this? On right hand side. Did you guys get this or not? Students, did you get this or not? Right? So that is basically what, this is how quantity theory of money explains that increase in money supply will result in inflation. That is what quantity theory of money explains, how increase in money supply will result in higher prices. That is what you need to know, right? Therefore, an increase in money supply on the left-hand side of the equation needs to be balanced by increase in price level on the right-hand side. This is the entire concept that it says. Right, yes. So this theory was developed by Montrist, and it is them who are explaining how money supply is causing inflation, right? So that is what their view on this is, right? Getting this, right? So let's look at this one more time and then move forward. So how this equation shows the relationship between money supply and inflation, Arbab? How this equation is showing you the relationship between money supply and inflation? It says that V and T, the founder, the monetarist who developed this equation, they said that velocity of circulation and number of transactions are relatively stable in long run. So this means that their value doesn't fluctuate, their value doesn't change, so it will be fixed. Therefore, any increase in the money supply, so if the money supply is increasing on the left-hand side, that has to be balanced by increasing the price level on the right-hand side. So this is what it shows, right? Is this clear, students? So this is what you were supposed to know, and this is all what you need to know about quantity theory of money, nothing more, nothing less, right? Now, if everything is clear, then I would want that for the remaining time, we do some past paper question, right? Do you have any question in your mind? Any topic? Any topic that you want me to do? If not, then I can open any recent paper. Yeah. Do you have any particular topic in mind, Arbab or Isha? Yeah. No, Isha. So think about this. This equation wasn't even Keynes had nothing to do. Keynes, as I said, are Keynes are an older school of thought, which were prominent in 1930s. So this theory came into existence way after Keynesian approach, right? So when Keynesian approach became outdated and all that stuff, so that is when the theory came. So on this theory, it's only monetarist theory, and therefore, obviously, it is only them that explain that how this works, right? So you don't have any Keynesian view on this, right? Okay, so just a second, let me open a paper here, right? So do you want me to do a case study or an essay question or what? Right, yeah. So I've a paper open in front of me, but this link is about to expire. So let me send you a new link and then we'll continue. Case study. Okay, let me send you the new link.